Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to the afternoon session of the Etobicoke panel of the Toronto Committee of Adjustment. In accordance with sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment is now called to order. I'd like to introduce myself first. I'm Stan Kumoric. I'll be your chair. My fellow panel members on my left, Bill Dalton and Laura Alderson. On my right, Donald Taylor and Rick Ross, and also our Deputy Secretary Treasurer and Manager of Etobicoke, Barbara Bertozik, at my far left. And the Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from provisions of the zoning that apply to property, permissions to extend or alter lawful nonconforming uses, and consents to sever property to create new lots. I'd like to do our land acknowledgement for this afternoon session. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is a traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. The procedure this afternoon, the Committee of Adjustment hearings are now conducted in a hybrid and in-person virtual format. Some applications will be made in person, while others will be done virtually by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform. The meetings are also streamed on the Toronto City YouTube planning channel, and anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch on YouTube. Those who want to participate virtually and have registered in advance will be connected with their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All virtual participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, you will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. We ask that you mute your devices until you are called to speak. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelist when your item is being held. During this time, your camera may be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time. At all other times, your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. For both in-person and virtual applications, Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Those participating through WebEx are not allowed to use share screen or any other panelist controls during their video appearances. Copies of the decisions. If you wish to receive a copy, for those people attending in person today, please fill out a decision request card, and those participating virtually need to submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address, as the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body or in some limited circumstances to Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. Only the applicants, the Minister of Municipal Affairs, specified persons under the public bodies, and are now permitted to appeal decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. Procedures this afternoon, I will go through each item as listed in the agenda. When making your submissions, when the application is not contested, the agent or applicant may proceed with a presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak. The committee may ask questions and or take the matter into committee for discussion or decision. Each speaker, including the applicant agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. We will comment when you are reaching the 5-minute mark. Any presentation or other materials you wish to submit to the committee should have been emailed in advance to the hearing. Staff and committee members cannot accept materials today at the hearing. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address at the onset. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee on the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may instead decide to defer the application if there are substantial revisions to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of those changes. Then individuals either in support or opposition of the application will be invited to speak. Generally, we ask speakers in the room first and then those who may be online. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant has an opportunity to rebut, but only those issues that were raised by the previous speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. Okay, minutes were approved in the morning, so do we have any declarations of interest either by panel members or staff for the afternoon session for any of these items? No, thank you. And we don't have deferral requests for the afternoon? No, none, thank you. So we can actually start at the top of the agenda, which is item 17. And item 17 is 10 DELROY Drive. This is an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage, including a secondary suite in the basement and a deck in the rear yard. There were originally 10 variances, which have been since reduced to 9, and 7 of those 9 have been also reduced. Forestry is recommending refusal, or in the alternative, conditions 1 and 2. Planning is recommending refusal. However, that is based on the submission prior to the revisions. No? Okay, my mistake. So planning is recommending refusal.
They thought that the changes were minor.
I see. Okay. I misread that one. Sorry. There are several letters of support. I believe there are 8 in total. And the applicant is Joe Dome, and I believe Mr. Dome is online.
Yes, my name is Joe Dome, 133 Torresdale Avenue, agent for the owner.
Good afternoon. In light of the negative planning report, I think we would like to get a full presentation.
Yes, the application is to construct a new 2-story detached dwelling with an attached garage. We have had discussions with planning staff. The owner and architect have made revisions to improve the proposed variances. We do note that planning, as mentioned, has not changed their opinion. We would respectfully like to outline some context that demonstrates the proposal is within character of the street. Therefore, we'd like to first amend the following variances in accordance with the revised drawings on file. Variance number 1 has been reduced to 44%. That's 201 square meters.
If these are the revisions that we already have, let me just pull that up. Then I don't think there's any point in going through them again.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, if they can just be taken from the revised notice.
Yeah, we have a revised notice where variances 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 have all been reduced and 9 removed. I mean,
that's right.
Unless you've got further revisions to suggest.
No, that reflects the revised drawings on file.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, regarding the variances 1 and 2 pertaining to the revised lot coverage of 44%, which is 201 square meters, and the FSI of 0.68, 284.46 square meters, these are in part inflated due to the difference in lot area of the subject lot compared to the surrounding lots. If we could pull up the file titled photos, I would like to highlight number 15, DELROY across the street. So that's number 11. There, that's number 15. This image is the rendering included in the application. It was approved at committee last year for a larger footprint totaling 278.02 square meters compared to the revised application's 201 square meters, and a floor area of 368.48 square meters compared to the application's 284.46 square meters. They also had a length variance approved as opposed to the application, which is limited to a 13.67
Do you
meter
know
length.
do you know the
So-
rather than the actual numbers, do you have a percentage coverage comparison?
Yeah, so their percentage was 39% for the lot coverage and 0.52 for the FSI. So I'd just like to make the comparison there because of the larger lot. While they requested a lower percentage and a lower FSI, the actual footprint was larger at 278.02 to 201 and
Because they have a larger lot.
368.48. Yeah, to 284.46. And so the two variances, those two variances requested today are inflated compared to the fact that the proposal is below the impact of other modern two-story dwellings approved in that immediate context, such as also next door at number 11. I believe that image is right above. If you can just scroll up one above. So that would be 11 DELROY. That's directly across the street. And also the last image is 21 DELROY Drive. And the FSI is further inflated by the long-term stable top of slope at the rear of the property. And another important mitigation of the lot coverage variance is due to the fact that the rear porch is proposed as covered while the dwelling itself occupies a smaller lot coverage. Now, variances 3, 7, and 8 refer to the proposed front yard setback, front architectural feature wall next to the garage, and eaves. And this is due to the position and angle of the front lot line. The front main wall of the proposed dwelling is set back 1 meter behind the front main wall of the adjacent neighbor at number 12. And again, the dwelling length is 13.67 meters and can't go further back due to the long-term stable top of slope. The architectural feature next to the garage and front eaves help to break up what would otherwise be a flat visual appearance. And regarding the proposed height and main wall height, variances 4 and 5 of 8.01 meters. I'd also note that 11 DELROY across the street, the first photo on the dock was approved for 8.61 meters. The dwelling does comply with the both side yard setbacks. And we have read the comments from Urban Forestry regarding variances 1 and 9. The reduction of the driveway width from 6 meters to 3.2 meters improves the tree impacts. And the owner is, of course, open to any urban forestry conditions that committee would see fit to include. I believe they mentioned conditions 1 and 2. The owner has spoken to many surrounding neighbors, received 8 signatures in support, including the adjacent neighbor at number 8, as well as 4, 14, 24, 20, 18, 9, and 12A DELROY. And we're not aware of any opposition. And overall, in context, we do feel that the application as amended is reasonable and minor in nature. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. I guess the first question I would have is what's your FSI number if you weren't if you didn't have to deal with the top of bank situation?
I don't have the exact number in front of me, but from the site plan, you can see, if you go to the site plan, you can see the red line indicated the approximate location of the long-term stable top of slope. So that portion there, that would be the difference.
Okay, so it's not huge. Okay, thank you. Any other questions from panel members? Bill?
Yep. So you're relying on 11, 15, and 21 as being the examples. So what are the 3 FSIs for those parcels?
So 11 across the street, that actually didn't require FSI or lot coverage simply because the way their lot is set up, it actually is a larger lot area than their next door neighbor, which is number 15. And they have at least a similar sized dwelling, if not larger than what was approved for number 15, which I outlined last year, the variances that they were approved for. So they actually have a larger massing, but they didn't require that variance. So the immediate context, it won't be out of scale with what's already existing in the immediate context. And I should also note that the rear wall does not extend past either adjacent neighbor, and the dwellings across the street are actually longer than the proposal.
So then beyond 11, 15, and 21, do you have any other examples within the area of increased coverage in FSI?
Well, as for the actual the percentage and the FSI that's being requested today, I think that just there isn't another example that has those specific numbers. But what I would like to point out is just that the lot area is so much smaller compared to the surrounding lots that just due to the lot configuration there on the zoning map, it's just clearly visible how how the lot area for number 12 sort of wraps around the rear of the lot for 10. And so that just makes it, like half the size of, a little more than half the size of the neighboring lots.
Thank you.
So I would have a similar question with regards to lot coverage, but I guess you wouldn't have that number either in terms of what your lot coverage percentage would be if you didn't have to deal with a stable top of bank.
Mm-hmm.
So you wouldn't have that information either, I guess.
I'm not sure how the lot coverage is affected by the stable top of bank, but
So it doesn't.
I
So
think
that's not diminished then. So is that 44% coverage of the entire lot then?
That is, I believe that is the entire lot, but again, that's due to just how much lower the lot area is compared to the surrounding lots. I think that's the relevant context as far as the lot coverage is concerned.
Okay. Thanks.
Seems to me that the justification you're using for a lot of these variances is from cherry picking pieces of other variances that have been approved for other properties, as opposed to why you're requesting these.
I don't see how it's cherry picked, in just in the sense that it's just outlining the reason why the numbers are larger than they are. Whereas if the lot were the same size as the neighboring lots, then or even the lots across the street, they would be requesting lower FSI and lower lot coverage. And it does fit into the streetscape, like the actual impact to the street is really very similar to those other builds. And of course, the covered patio as well at the rear, the covered deck, that's another factor that does contribute to the lot coverage while not having an effect on the actual massing.
Ms. Alderson?
Since you are requesting a variance on the driveway width, do you happen to know, I know you don't know what the FSI is of number 11 across the street. Do you happen to know, because their driveway is fairly wide, do you happen to know what their driveway width is?
I don't know what their driveway width is. The driveway here, though, has been reduced to the bylaw. So
Okay.
that variance is being removed for the driveway.
Okay, oh, I apologize, I'm sorry, yes. And eliminates number 9, of course, yes, I see that on my notes.
Yes.
Okay, if there are no other questions, then, so in summary, we have a number of letters of support, including the 2 immediate neighbors. We have a refusal recommendation from planning, and forestry is not overly happy, although they'll accept 1 and 2.
I'd like to move a motion to refuse the application. I want to support it, but I can't because I don't have enough information to. And based on that, I don't believe it meets the 4 tests, and on this I agree with city planning.
Okay, so there's a motion to refuse by Mr. Dalton. Is there a seconder for that motion?
Yeah, I will second that motion.
Okay.
On the same basis as Mr. Dalton.
Okay, Mr. Ross has seconded the motion. All in favor of refusal? Opposed? Okay, the application is refused on a split vote.
Mr. Chair, can I take this quick opportunity to mic test somebody?
Go ahead, give me a chance to make some notes.
Perfect. Microphone check for Ida Evangelista. Ida, go ahead. Microphone check for Ida Evangelista. Ida, go ahead.
Hello, hi.
Hey, perfect. Thank you. Good, thanks.
Okay, so our next item, number 18, which is 21 17th Street. And this is an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 4 variances being requested. Forestry is recommending refusal, or in the alternative, forestry condition 1. Planning has a condition of approval, and that's it. I have questions, but we'll move on to that. This is Franz is the applicant online.
Yes. Hello, Mr. Chair and committee members. Good afternoon. This is Franz. The address is 105 Harrison Garden Boulevard. And this is our proposal. I am the designer and agent for this application.
Okay, welcome. Can you give us a brief interview? And I've got a quick question for you before that. Does the FSI include the basement?
No.
Is that a no?
No, yes, it is not included. You know, in the first proposal, first time, it was, and the FSI was 1.25. But after communicating with the planning department, pushed the building down, and now the area of the basement is not included in the FSI.
Okay, so the 0.87 is exclusive of the basement.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to clarify that. Do you want to give us a really brief overview, and then if there's any questions?
For sure. We requested 4 variances for these, and when we first time applied for the Committee of Adjustment, we received the refusal from the Planning Department. Then I revised the drawings, and the length of the building, it was 16.5 meter roughly. Now it's under 16 meter. Height was 8.5 meter. Now it's 8 meter. And the GFA was 1.25. Now it's 0.8 meters. I did communication with the planning staff to revise the drawing to coordinate the drawing with the recent decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. For example, recent for the address 2316th Street, for the FSI we have 90. The other project 92, and for variance number 4, for example, the height of the first floor, we are just 6 centimeter. It is less than, it is 5 inches, something like that, above the established grade. So I think the mass and shape of the envelope of the building right now, it's in the coordinate. It's synced with the neighbor and the characteristic of the neighbor, and total height of the building is actually for the front. Usually people ask for higher height, but ours is less than the other proposals that approved by the Committee of Adjustment. Yeah. That's all.
Okay, thank you, sir. I forgot to mention there is one objection letter, and that's it.
Yes.
Any questions? Any questions any questions from committee members?
Yeah, I wonder if you can make any comments on the objection letter. The objector seems to be concerned about the overall size.
Yeah, I read the objection. There are two concerns. The first one is for the FSI. You know, if I propose a 1-story building, this area, the zoning is based on the GFA or FSI. If I propose 1-story building with the length of 17 meter and this width, same width, the lot coverage gonna be 49%, and the GFA, you know, without applying for the Committee of Adjustment. The concern is because they calculated based on the lot coverage, but this area is not based on the lot coverage, based on the GFA. And even the length, we don't ask for any variances for the length of the building or the rear setback. It means we are less than the other, the permissible length and depth by the bylaw. For the second one, the second concern on the objection letter, you know, our building almost, if you see the location map, our building almost 65 meters away from the other building. That this building, 2916th Street, is on the other block, other side of the street, and I cannot imagine in my mind how it can block the sunlight for this distance.
Okay, thank
Here
you.
in this location. Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? There's no one else online for this?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. If there are no other questions, then we'll take it into committee. So we have conditions requested by Forestry and Planning. Mr. Taylor?
So if there's no comments or discussion, I'm prepared to table a motion. Okay. I'm satisfied this application and the 4 variances requested meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act. And I move approval subject to the community planning condition and urban forestry condition 1.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for Mr. Taylor's
I'll
motion?
second that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. All in favor? Anybody opposed? No. Okay, so we have unanimous approval. Thank you. Okay, our next item is number 19. This is 29 BRAYWIN Drive. This is a application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 3 variances being requested. Planning has a condition of approval, and transportation has chimed in as they are okay with the application. Ida Evangelista is the agent. Ida, welcome.
Oh,
Hello.
good afternoon.
Good
Yes,
afternoon.
hello, hi. I was talking along and talking to myself. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members. Ida Evangelista on behalf of the owners of 29 BRAYWIN Drive.
Okay, I don't think we need a full presentation here. Just if you're open to questions, if we could leave it at that.
Yeah, yes, I am, Mr. Chair. This was deferred from April 11th. We have made substantial changes. We have planning and transportation in support of the application, and it's very straightforward. It's a house that we're proposing that exists in the neighborhood, and I'm open to any questions you may have.
Thank you.
Question of the agent.
Yeah.
CP has only 1 condition. Are you okay with that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, I am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm assuming there are no other speakers and there's no other questions. We'll take it into committee.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, quickly, just no other speakers. Thank you.
Okay. No comments, questions? No? Cool. Okay, then I'd like to move a motion for approval. I believe the application is very straightforward, meets the 4 tests, subject to the planning conditions that would be tied to the May 14th, 2024 drawings.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you again. All in favor? Okay, we have unanimous approval. Thank you, Ms. Evangelista.
Mr. Chair, as we go on to item number 20, I just want to bring to everyone's attention that the agent has requested to be on video. So, Tony, I've gone ahead and made you a panelist, so you're now able to start and stop your video yourself by clicking the Start Video button at the bottom center of the screen. So feel free to do that now, and I can unmute you as well.
Okay, just before we get there, if we can introduce the application, it's number 20, which is 40 OVIDA Avenue. This is an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 6 variances being requested. Forestry is requesting conditions 1 and 2. There is a letter from a neighbor, which I'm not sure if it's in support or opposition or kind of neutral. It's just a letter. So I will, maybe we'll consider that a letter of concern. And if we have our agent, then please go ahead, Tony.
Good afternoon. My name is Tony Henriquez, 543 Concord Avenue. I'd like to start off by addressing the letter that was sent. There was originally a letter of opposition from 57 Shaver, and that was before the owner of 57 Shaver met with my client, and then he changed his view and he actually rewrote another letter in favor of this proposed dwelling. So technically, we don't have any letters of opposition.
Okay, thank you. That's the way it looks. I don't think we need a full presentation here. If you're open to questions, can we just leave it at that unless you want to do a brief overview?
No, I'm willing to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from panel members? No? Okay, and I'm assuming there are no other speakers.
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So let's take it into committee.
Okay, then, I'd like to move a motion for approval. Once again, this is a very straightforward application. I believe it meets the four tests, subject to the forestry conditions 1 and 2.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton. Is there a seconder?
I'll second that motion.
Ms. Alderson, all in favor? Okay, unanimous approval. Thank you, sir. Okay, item 21, 9 Torbarrie Road. And this is an application to construct a new industrial building. And I believe there was a revision in the description from mixed use to industrial. There are 4 variances being requested. Planning has a condition of approval, and transportation has chimed in as being okay. And our applicant is, it's back to Ida. Ms. Evangelista, are you there?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. I'm back for 9 Torbarrie. This is actually office and yeah, I wouldn't consider it as an industrial building because this is office and some small warehouse in the back.
It looks nice, actually.
Yeah, it's a beautiful building. So you saw from the submission that I made. Do you need a presentation on this, or
No, I just want to
do you
get
wanna-
I just want to get a clarification. Like, is this a mixed-use building or is it just an industrial building? Because, like, why the change in the description?
Perhaps we can, yeah, planning made a comment that it's not a mixed use. But I wouldn't say it's an industrial building. It would be an office building and office and warehouse. If that clarifies, perhaps maybe if Barb can chime in on that one. I don't want to make changes to it.
Can we call it a non-residential building?
I guess you don't want to call it something that doesn't conform to that zoning bylaw?
Does non-residential building suit, Ida?
Would that be problematic with zoning after, Barb?
I don't know, you did a waiver, so I don't know how they would have identified it.
Yeah, yeah, that's what planning wrote.
So planning called it
non-residential
did planning call it industrial, or
Oh,
where did that come from?
No, planning called it a non-residential building.
So are we going to change the industrial to non-residential?
Let's
What is
leave it
that
the way it
impact
is.
if we do that?
Yeah, what is the impact? Let's leave it the way it is.
Okay, so as amended, which it's industrial then?
You know what?
I know it's going to be.
Thinking twice about this?
Yeah, I don't want this to come back and bite the proverbial. Can we stand this down for a minute? I didn't realize that that was changed to industrial. As my notice says mixed use. Can we stand this down for
Well,
a minute and
The
I'll
only
come
way
right
we
back?
can do that would be to take a 5-minute break at this point, because I don't want
Why
to
am I
start.
at 10?
No, we can go to the next item.
The next item is going to take
Yeah,
some time.
That's fine.
That's okay. I'm
Okay.
okay with that. Okay,
I know.
thank you.
Okay, so we'll come back to 21 then. Okay, thank you. So item 22, A, B, and C, 6 BIRCHLEA Avenue. This is an application to obtain consent to sever the lot into 2 undersized residential lots. Excuse me. 2 residential lots, okay. There are also the related variances with regards to parts 1 and 2, 5 apiece. Planning is recommending refusal. The counselor is concurrent with planning. Heritage has 4 conditions should we approve, and there are 20 or so letters of objection, and we have a number of speakers. And welcome back, David Engelman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Committee. David Eagleman, 900 The East Mall, Suite 300, Associate and Planner here on behalf of the owner. And through you, Mr. Chair, I imagine you would like a presentation?
Presentation, absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So through you, Mr. Chair, I will note that, as you may be aware, these applications were previously deferred twice. The first deferral was in order to further consult with planning staff, surrounding neighbors, and make revisions to the proposal. And that was from the February 8th of this year committee hearing. We have since made revisions to the proposal, and those revisions are reflected on the public notices that were issued for today's hearing. And it was then deferred again because of a notice issue from the April 25th committee hearing, which you may all recall, as most of you were there on that day. So I did provide a detailed planning justification letter for your consideration, but I will speak to the key points now in my presentation. So I'll firstly note that I reviewed the reports from Urban Forestry, Engineering and Construction Services, as well as Heritage staff, and were agreeable to all the recommended conditions. And I'll note that at least those departments have not raised any concerns or objections. And I am aware of the concerns from planning staff, some of the surrounding neighbors, as well as the ward councillor. And I will address those concerns as I speak to the proposed consent and variances. So I'll note in terms of the revisions, we've reduced the number of variances from 10 to 5. And effectively now all we're dealing with is the severance itself, which pertain to the frontage and area variances, and a side yard setback variances for each of the new duplexes, as well as roof eaves projection and setbacks, which are related to the side yard setbacks proposed. So almost entirely the 2 new duplexes are compliant with the zoning bylaw, save and except for the setbacks and the roof eave setbacks and projections. So regarding the proposed consent, I would like ask staff to please bring up the lot area analysis I did provide in my justification letter, and that would be the one dated, I believe it was April 14th or April 16th, as I know there was a couple of them submitted. So as staff are pulling that up, that lot analysis demonstrates that 22.2% of the lots within the neighborhood have a lot area that is similar to or less than the proposed lot area of the 2 new lots. And if staff can scroll down as well, this would be the lot analysis attached to the cover letter. You would see that in terms of lot frontage, 38.6% of lots within the neighborhood have a lot frontage that is similar to or smaller than the proposed lot frontages. So based on these lot analyses, you can see that a large portion of lots within the study area have a lot frontage and lot area that is similar to or less than the proposed lot frontages and lot areas. And I would like to stress that the official plan states that new development within the neighborhood is to respect and reinforce the existing character of the neighborhood. This does not mean be the same as or even similar to, but rather means can coexist in harmony with and fit within the surrounding context. And in this regard, I would like staff to please go to attachment D of my cover letter, which and photo number 1 specifically. So as that photo is being pulled up, perhaps the committee can see it for themselves. But this photo, so a number of the photos in attachment D show 2 dwellings that exist right next to each other with large differences in lot frontages. And these dwellings exist right next to each other in the neighborhood. In the case of photo number 1, there's a 6.1 meter difference in lot frontage. Photo number 2, there's a 7.61 meter difference in lot frontage. Photo number 3, there's also a 7.62 meter difference in lot frontage. Photo number 4 is a 7.62 meter lot frontage difference as well. So you can see through these photos that as the neighborhood exists today, dwellings exist immediately adjacent to one another with differences in lot frontage, yet they coexist in harmony as the neighborhood currently exists and make up part of the character of this neighborhood. Attachment E is a similar analysis, but for lot area. So I know I'm running out of time here. I can't really speak to the variances pertaining to the setbacks and the roof views, but it is my professional opinion that this proposal meets the consent criteria under section 5124 and meets the 4 tests under section 45.1 of the Planning Act.
Thank you. You're perfectly on time. I think we may have a few questions for you, so maybe you can address some of that in the questions. Personally, I don't have a problem with the lot frontage or the lot areas. I do have an issue with the setback requirements. And in relation to that, has your client thought of 2 semis?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think there was some consideration for that. However, I think and this is not my area of expertise, but based on market conditions, I think providing detached dwellings is a more suitable approach.
It is if you got the land for it.
And through you, Mr. Chair, just in regards to the setback, the 0.9 meter setbacks are to the existing dwellings on the outside.
I'm not concerned about those. I'm more concerned about the interior, the 0.6 between the 2 proposed new dwellings. But anyway, that's just my personal pet peeve. So, thank you. Any other questions from committee members before we open it up to the deputants?
I actually do. So I'm looking at Street View, but it is dated October 2018. I'm assuming that all those mid-rise buildings across the street from this subject property are still there?
Through you, Mr. Chair, correct. Although across the street is effectively all apartment buildings, 3 to 4 story apartment buildings.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there are no other questions, we'll get you to take a seat and go through all the deputants then.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So I guess we'll start with whoever's in the room.
That'd be a great idea, Mr. Chair. And if the area resident can identify their address so we can have their letter up before them.
Absolutely.
That'd be great. So maybe we'll start with Yolanda first, because you're at the first of on top of our list.
Somebody's got to be number 1.
Yes, good, someone has to be. My name is Yolanda Kersik, and I live in the street number 45 Street, corner with the BRAYWIN. My problem here, or I'm here to speak about the trees. This property that they just discussed in number 8, they have 34 trees. These trees are located in the 4 cardinal points, north, south, east, and west. Being in the south side, 2 pine trees, and the rest, they are Siberian elms. These Siberian elms, one of them, they have this circumference, this size, the trees. 9 of them. And they are huge. These Siberian trees, they help a lot to absorb water and doesn't allow the rest of the properties to get flooded. Another 9 trees, they have this circumference. The circumference was taken not from the floor, was taken for 1.2 meters high, that it was recommended. The other ones, yes, they are small. These trees, they are so important for the wildlife, to give the home to the lot of birds, and probably they will be point for the immigration for the birds to come into Canada every winter, or they live in too. I will appreciate not to approve this project, because once they damage the roots of the trees, it's going to be very difficult to replace it. The city is planting new trees with a lot of trees, like these ones, that there are 9 of them, that is supposed to be 200 years old, is going to have to be or cut down or severely damaged. All of them, they are going to be very bad destroyed for what their proposals are. Please, I will appreciate it not giving an okay to this project. Actually, the city of Mississauga is planting the Siberian elm trees all around the city for the point that they absorb a lot of water, and the table water in this south Etobicoke is very high. So if you accepted this project, a lot of houses is going to be flooded. Thank you very much for your attention. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for the graphics. It's helpful.
I promise you that I'm going to play, but.
Okay, is Sandy Donaldson our next, or?
If you'd like to, but Sandy's
Well,
remote.
who's here? Who else
So
is
next
here?
on our list that's present is Gabby
Okay,
Cordero.
come on up.
Hi, I'm Gabby Cordero. I live at 8 BIRCHLEA Avenue. I'd like to address the fact that Dominic nor him, David, have talked to any neighbors on the street. So the fact that he said he spoke to neighbors is a false lie. It's a big lie. All right, so I live on the west side. And if you could pull up my letter.
Can you state your address for the record?
Pardon?
Can you state your address for the record?
8 BIRCHLEA Avenue.
Thank you.
Can you pull up my letter? That's my letter from April. What about the one that happened in June? Okay. I'll start with my speech here. So I grew up on Shaw Street, just north of Bloor Street. So when I was looking for a house, my forever home, I wanted a larger lot with lots of green space, mature trees, privacy, and space between my neighbors. This application is asking for consent to change our zoning into a minor variance. Is not a minor variance at all. Now, if you look at this first picture, this is the view that I get walking into my backyard. And that will not exist if this gets approved. I will not have that view, nor will I have that canopy. And those trees are boundary trees, and I don't give permission to remove them or injure any of them. So claiming these two houses, duplexes, is an over-exaggeration because currently this house has a basement apartment that the owner is not taking advantage of to make more housing for our city. So the previous owner turned that house into an in-law suite so he can have his in-laws watch his baby. Due to a divorce, Dominic purchased this house. Now, the official plan further states that no changes will be made through rezoning, minor variance or consent, or other public action that are keeping within the overall physical character of the entire neighborhood. Now, across the street, we have low-rise buildings. That is zoned differently than our side of the street. And those people that live across the street walk their dogs on our side of the street and actually sit on the curb waiting for their rides in the morning to get to work. So taking away all that green space and putting two large houses is going to take away the walkability of the neighborhood. The eaves trough is 2 inches away from my property line. How are they going to service their eaves if this gets approved? I would have to give them permission to get on my property. Now, if we could go to the last page of my letter. So that's the flooding that happens all the time. Those trees suck up. Oh, actually, go up a little bit more. Right there. Do you see where that white rag is hanging just after my roses? That's where the house will end. That will be my view. A tall structure. If I wanted to live with tall structures, I'd be living in this city on Shaw Street still. So this is going to completely change my perspective as well as my enjoyment of my property. So I would recommend refusal as per planning and the counselor, because this is greatly going to impact the whole neighborhood. Nobody's going to be able to walk their dogs in shade or wait for their rides in shade in the middle of the summer. Do you have any questions for me?
Don't think so.
Now, David would be here if he could take the time off, and he shares the driveway on the other side. And those border trees on that side would have to be removed as well. And they're all...
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else in the room to speak?
Mr. Chair, there is one more person in the room to speak. Now, your list notes of Janice DeHart. They are not present on the call or virtually at this time. There is someone else in the chambers, though. Robert Ingram is here present.
Oh, okay.
Hi,
Welcome. Could we get your address as well, please?
I'm number 24. Birchlea Avenue. I've resided, I own it, since 1984.
Okay,
So I'm
thank
one
you.
of, I go back quite a ways on this street. No consultation was ever done at my end of the street. I never received any written notification. I never had anybody come to talk to me. I only found out through my neighbors. That's not just me. There are several other people who have homes that were never contacted. Now, when I hear right there, that's a pretty blatant lie. Oh, I went and I talked to all the neighbors. No. To say that what's being proposed is in keeping with the nature of the street, that's not true either. I bought down there with my deceased parents, now deceased parents, because we, like Gabby, got tired of living amidst height and concrete. I never really thought I'd see the lot splitting hit a street like Birchlea. It is one of the epicenters of crime in southern Etobicoke. The buildings on the south side, which were put up after Hurricane Hazel, that used to be a lacrosse court, those buildings occupy not the full other south side of the street, they occupy about 50%. Those buildings tie up currently, probably on an average weekend, about a quarter of the available police cruisers. We endlessly count how many cop cars are on the street, how many fire engines are on the street, how many ambulances are on the street. This is directly, exactly across from the property.
Okay, can we get to how that impacts the proposal that has before us today?
Our street does not need increased density. Our street does not need to lose more water-absorbing trees. We're an area that's very prone to flooding. Now, I do not say that from the point of view where, say, Gabby is talking about the coverage. Every one of us has had to alter our properties in some way to try and facilitate getting overground and underground water to the street. Most people have to use mechanical pumping. This concerns me greatly. I've planted trees myself 40 years ago, which are now 150-foot giants in my backyard, just to mitigate water and flooding. I'm very concerned for Gabby because I wouldn't want someone's overflowing eaves troughs within a couple of inches of my property. So where does the liability for that decision arise if she starts getting a flooded basement? Who takes responsibility for allowing this? I'm going to cut it there. I've made my primary points, but I think this is a really bad idea, and I don't think it suits the street that it's being proposed to be done on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ingham. Can we start with Sandy now online?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, we can go up to Sandy now. I just want to bring to your attention again, Janice Hart still is not on the call, and we have reached out to them, but nothing yet.
Okay.
Sandy Donald is up next.
Hey, my name is Sandy Donald. I'm from 3436th Street. This application is not a duplex, but two single detached houses. No variance for FSI, which I believe is would be around 0.97, which is against the bylaw of 0.35, which is almost 300%. There is no arborist report. We're talking of significant removal and injury of trees. Character guideline report is way off the mark. This application is a replay of the January and April applications. Is the application minor? For this application, the size of the variances range from 49% times 2, 37% times 2, 28% times 2, 25% times 2, and 18%, which is and 9% times 2. The 10 variances, and the impact of these variants is not minor. Not is the an FSI variance of 0.7%, almost triple the bylaw. To say a deviation of 300% FSI from the standard is not minor. The sheer number of variances and some of the size cannot be considered minor. To say this is minor is a complete distortion of the word. Big is not small, slow is not fast. Putting in context, if on Highway 400 you are caught speeding by law 100 kilometers per hour at 149, 49% over the limit, and tell the officer it's only minor, your car will be impounded and you will likely be asked if you've been drinking. If you take the FSI of 300% over the bylaw, it becomes ridiculous. Variants of this magnitude and numbers do not meet the minor test. General intent and purpose of the official plan. This is taken from the 2-22. The cornerstone policy is to ensure that new development in our neighborhoods respect the existing physical character of the area, reinforcing the stability of the neighborhood. It says this at least 18 times. At no point does it say intensification is encouraged or desirable. It goes further state no change will be made through rezoning, minor variance, consent, or other public actions that are out keeping with the physical character of the neighborhood. This is 4.45. When we look at the entire application, it's not compatible with the official plan. It is not keeping with the prevailing physical character of the adjacent properties, Block Street, or Long Branch. Intent of the Long Branch zoning bylaws. If the count, and this was taken from an OMB decision for 3036th Street, if the council that drafted the original FSI bylaw had wanted to see lots with FSIs of 0.5 or even 0.75, which this is way off the charts even from there, they would have made these standard. They did not, and actually 3 subsequent councils, in fact, left them in place. The application has to give a valid reason why the bylaw requirement cannot be made or met. It's difficult to understand how 2 oversized houses can be built on an undersized lot when the current house meets the bylaw. This application fails the test of meeting the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaws. The Long Branch Character Guidelines, which is the only neighborhood in all of Toronto, this application should be rejected based on the fact that it does not meet 14 out of the 16 characters of Long Branch as stated in the Character Guideline. This application does not even come close. It fails the official plan character of policy 4.1.5. Under the In the Long Branch Character Guidelines, it states, the objective of the guidelines is to identify the neighborhood's key character defining qualities and to ensure that the future development are designed in a manner which is contextually sensitive and responsive to the neighborhood character in keeping with policy 4.1.5 of the official plan. The character guideline is the city council defining the unique character of Long Branch neighborhood under the official plan. It goes to the city council, the intent of the official plan. If an application fails the character guidelines, it fails the official plan under 4.1.5. The minor variances, the guidelines serves as an input to the Toronto Committee of Adjustments and the Ontario Municipal Board, TLAB, to assist in the evaluation of the development application. I went through on all the individual things.
Mr. Della, can you please wrap up soon?
Okay. This application should be rejected based on the fact that it does not meet 14 out of 16, 88% of the characters of Long Branch is stated in the character guideline. This application does not even come close. It fails the official character policy 4.1.5.
Thank you. Any questions for the deputant? No? Okay. Stephen Vella is our next speaker.
Hi, how are you?
Good afternoon.
Can you please pull, hello?
Hey, we can hear you.
Can you please pull up Judy Gibson's letter? She's given me permission to present.
Can you state
her
your
letter.
name and
There it
address,
is.
please?
My name is Stephen Vella. I live at 42 Ash Crescent. So on behalf of the LBNA Tree Canopy and Preservation and Enhancement Committee, we request the members of the committee to refuse the applicant's request for consent and variances. They fail to maintain the intent and purpose of the policies of the official plan, particularly with respect to healthy neighborhoods policies and the natural environment. The photo of 6 Birchlea showing the large, healthy, and significant protected trees that will be injured or removed as a result of this application. Can you move to page 2, please, to the table? The large spruce on the front yard, which is the largest tree on the left, is 64 centimeter DBH, diameter at breast height. It is shown on the survey as a private protected tree, but the applicant has not provided an arborist's report or tree protection plan for this tree. Based on the minimum size, the tree protection zone required for this from the outside of the trunk is 4.2 meters or 13.8 feet. It's doubtful, given the size of this tree and the proposed variances, that the tree will survive. And you have to note that the measurement of the DBH on the applicant's survey is incorrect. The applicant uses the same 25 centimeters as the tree just to the right. If you can just move up to the first picture again, please. As you can see, the tree on the left, they say is 25 centimeters. They also say the tree in the center is 25 centimeters. So obviously they needed to get an arborist to measure this correctly. We do have a member, Natalie Wood, who sent in a letter on April 18th, who is trained on how to correctly measure DBH of trees and who is a master's in forestry conservation. In her letter of objection, she demonstrates how to measure DBH for a tree, and I think she's presenting later on. Not only is the tree of protected size, it is also a boundary tree. And according to the Provincial Forestry Act, Chapter F26, a boundary tree is one where the trunk of the tree touches or is growing on the boundary line. As such, it requires the co-owner of the tree's permission to injure or remove the tree. The next door neighbor, Ms. Cudero, is the co-owner, and she was speaking earlier, and is clear with her opposition to this application and has stated that they will not give the permission for the tree to be injured. Can you please move to page 5, figure 3? In the rear yard, there are other very large trees, protected elms on both the east and west sides, and also appear to be growing on the boundaries and are likely also boundary trees. Again, these trees would require permission of the co-owners to remove or injure these trees for the application to proceed. The co-owners are not giving their permission. If you can move back up to page 3, please. So we have provided the relevant official plan policies that have protected trees and green spaces where this application fails. And if you can move down to the next page, page 4. This application is asking for multiple variances that are not minor. In particular, we are objecting to the following variances. Reduced lot area of 302 square meters, where the minimum is 370. Reduced lot frontage of 7.62, when the minimum required is 12. An FSI of 0.97 or 0.63, where the maximum is 0.35. Side yard setback of 0.6 and 0.9, when the minimum is 1.2. This application fails the 4 tests under the Planning Act. The application is not appropriate for the development of the land, as other development and renovations could occur that would not require the removal or injury of the existing trees. The general intent and purpose of the city's official plan is not being maintained. The general intent of the purpose of the city's bylaws are not being maintained. The variances being requested are not minor. We request that both the consent and the variances respectfully be refused by the member of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from panel members? Seeing none, I believe our next speaker is Andy Choles.
Good afternoon. My name is Andy Choles. I live at 12 Jasmine Avenue, a couple of blocks east of this planned build. I object to the severance and the proposed overbuild on both of these properties. Too many of these are in our neighborhood now. I'm going to focus my presentation on significant errors found in this application. Looking through the files on the AIC website for this application, I see there were 3 public notices. The notices dated February 8th and February 15th list the purpose of the application to construct a detached dwelling with an attached garage and a secondary suite in the basement. The notice for June 20th, today, has a different purpose: to construct a new duplex with an attached garage. These applications do not meet the bylaw definition of duplexes. They do meet the definition of a single detached home with secondary units. As such, the applications are subject to FSI, and this variance is missing. The agent has chosen to use a waiver process to identify their own variances, exposing a loophole in the system to sweeten the application using EHON changes to the policy in an effort to get the severance approved. I ask you not to support this tactic. I looked at the plans and thought, this is not like any duplex I've ever seen. Duplexes are similar to semi-detached homes, but instead of being side by side, they're stacked on top of one another. Any duplex I've seen, the units are roughly the same size and have fairly separate entrances. This house on BIRCHLEA has 2 floors with a basement. You could use the basement for an in-law suite or a student apartment if you wanted. But this is not a duplex. I consulted a zoning map for this address and saw the FSI was 0.35 for the area, including this address. There's a link to the bylaws that apply to the homes in this area, and 10.20.40.40 regarding floor area and floor space index. 1C read, the permitted maximum floor space index in the regulations AB do not apply to a duplex, triplex, or fourplex. Perhaps this is why the applicant is calling this a duplex. I next tried to find if duplex was defined in the City of Toronto policy. It was. Chapter 800 definition, specifically 800.50. 215 defined a duplex means a building that has 2 dwelling units with 1 unit entirely or partially above the other. A detached house that has a secondary unit is not a duplex. Other definitions also shed some light on this topic. 180 defines a detached house means a building that has 1 dwelling unit occupying the entire building. 220 defined a dwelling unit means the living accommodation for a person or persons living together as a single housekeeping unit in which both food preparation and sanitary facilities are provided for the exclusive use of the occupants of the unit. Finally, 735 defined secondary suite means a self-contained living accommodation for an additional person or persons living together as a separate single housekeeping unit in which both food preparation and sanitary facilities are provided for the exclusive use of the occupant. The suite is located in and subordinate to the dwelling unit. Those definitions are found in Chapter 800, specifically 800.50. Perhaps the most important statement that a detached house with a secondary unit is not a duplex, and the secondary unit is located in and subordinate to the dwelling unit. I feel the writers of the previous public notices identified these houses accurately both times as a new detached dwelling with an attached garage and a secondary suite in the basement. This describes the build and matches the definitions of the Toronto policy. The basement listed is 102.78 meters squared, while the 2 floors above are similar sizes and the combined size is 205.56 meters squared. Of course, to look at the plan, the basement apartment appears to be a little less than half the total basement area after subtracting the area for the garage and the laundry and mechanical room. This is an in-law suite or a student apartment. The basement unit is clearly subordinate to the upstairs accommodation, located in and subordinate to a dwelling unit, says the definition of secondary suite. This is a detached dwelling with a secondary unit, and according to definition, a detached house with a secondary unit is not a duplex. It is a mystery to me why anyone would call this a duplex. According to the policy and the official definitions, it is not a duplex. Not being a duplex, one needs to look closely at the FSI. The house has an FSI peaking at 0.097, according to the applicant's own data. This is much larger than 0.35 permitted on this lot and larger than what's prevailing in the immediate area. The fact there is a plan to build 2 of these homes side by side makes things that much worse. The house presently on the lot today is livable, rented, and has the potential to be developed on the footprint. Please recognize the applicant's waiver for what it is. It is a strategic effort to skip around clear
Andy, can you
bylaws
wrap
and
up, please?
definitions in an attempt, I will, to get approval for severance of 2 overbuilds. I would speculate, and if approved, there is a real problem. This error would not be caught in the already overwhelmed staff, and a permit would be issued. Creating 2 lot frontages that do not exist on BRCHLEA and 2 FSIs that also do not exist next door, or what's prevailing on BRCHLEA, is contrary to the official plan. It fails at least 2 of the 4 tests. It does not meet the intent and purpose of the bylaws. It does not meet the intent of the official plan, specifically policies 4.1.5.
Okay, Andy, I think we got your point. I'm gonna cut you off now, okay? Thank you.
Please turn it down.
Okay, I believe our next speaker is Christine Mercado.
Hello, could staff pull up my letter from the LBNA? And this would be the one that's dated June. It's the June letter. Perfect. Okay, thank you. So my name is Christine Mercado, and I'm the chair of the Long Branch Neighborhood Association, and we support community planning's position of refusal of this application. So on page 1, we've highlighted that there's been no real changes to seek staff or resident support. We've listed the changes, and it still does not meet the test of prevailing in 6 of the 8 policies of 4.1.5. We've listed the significant decisions outlined in red. If you just scroll down just a little bit, in the study area of similar severance applications outlined in red. The agent's precedents are outlined or outside the study area or prior to the approval of OPA 320, which addresses the test of prevailing characteristics and approval of the Long Branch Neighborhood Character Guidelines. So if you go to section 1 and then go to the next page on that, the LBNA completed a lot study using 4.1.5 of the criteria highlighted in pink, and the policies it did not meet in 4.1.5 highlighted in green. The applicant's lot study is not detailed enough and does not consider the direction in the guidelines for lot configuration, which contemplates severances if the resulting frontage is over 9 meters and does not remove large trees. This application fails that direction. On section 2, the agent did not consider the guidelines clarification. The new severances that produce lots under 8 meters do not meet the intent and purpose of the bylaw, which is one of the 4 tests. In section 3, taking the guidelines clarification, we highlighted lots between 9 and 12 meters and those are highlighted in the dark green, which the guidelines state reinforce the physical character and the intent and purpose of the bylaws. On Birchlea, 77% comply, minimum lot frontage, and using the guidelines, 100% reinforce the intent and purpose of the bylaws. The frontage of the proposed applicant, the frontage proposed by applicant does not exist. In the entire neighborhood, the prevailing frontage is 12 meters or larger, which is 89%. No severances producing frontages similar to the proposed have been approved in the study area since OPA 320 or the approval of the guidelines. So in section 4, the proposed lot area is not prevailing. Only 27 are not compliant in the entire neighborhood, and none are on Birchlea. In section 5, we've highlighted the FSIs that are over 0.6, and as you can see, that is not prevailing either. The prevailing FSI in the immediate context is bylaw compliant or under. Exceptions exist, but the prevailing FSI is 0.35 in the immediate and broader context, which is in light blue. All of the agents' examples in the report are outside the study area, are in a different context fronting onto Lake Ontario, or are not subject to the guidelines or OPA 320. Examples highlighted during the deputation all existed before OPA 320 and the guidelines. They include failed severance applications due to lot configuration or protected tree removal, or are larger than what are proposed. And so they've produced those frontages that are endorsed in the guidelines. So in section 6, the zoning waiver has been incorrect in all submissions in accordance to Mr. Chole's deputation. FSI is missing on this application. In section 7, we've highlighted the guidelines where this application fails in lot sizes, massing, placement of garages, trees, and parking. We've also included photos of every house on Birchlea, and this does not fit. Even without the guidelines, this application fails to reinforce prevailing characteristics. So if you can go to section 13, the injury and removal of the boundary trees have not been addressed with any of the neighbors. And then in section 14, we've also included highlighted versions of the refusal for 90 Ash, which accurately describes the neighborhood and its prevailing characteristics. Similar frontage and FSIs that were refused. There is one significant change in this application. In the previous versions, they are using an agent, and the agent is calling the application a duplex. So in conclusion, the city is recommending refusal of this application. The application does not meet the official plan policies in effect. The severance is a wedge application on a street that has no similar lot configurations and in the broader neighborhood is not prevailing. It does not address Chapter 3 policies concerning trees that add to the enjoyment of living next or near to this property. The boundary trees have not been addressed. It does not consider any aspects of the character guidelines. And in short, it fails the 4 tests. It fails the policies of the OP, the intent and purpose of the bylaws, and it's not desirable or minor. We support planning's position of refusal of this application.
Thank you. Right on time. Okay.
I'm trying.
Perfect. Any questions for Ms. Mercado? If not, I'm going to call. We have no other speakers.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we had one more on the list, Janice DeFerred, but again, like I said, we did try and reach out.
Right.
And they did not. They didn't join the call virtually, and they didn't show up in person.
Okay.
She's on her way.
I'm going to call Mr. Engelman up then. Okay, you've got a lot to answer to.
Yes. Through you, Mr. Chair and committee, I will just firstly address, I don't appreciate being called a liar. I am a registered professional planner in the province of Ontario, and I have a code of ethics to uphold. And I don't believe I specifically mentioned that I personally consulted with the neighbors in my initial presentation. I mentioned that the application was previously deferred in order to further consult with neighbors and planning staff. But even if I did mention that I did specifically consult with the neighbors, that would be true because after the application was previously deferred, I was here at the Etobicoke Civic Center for about an hour after the application was deferred, having a conversation with 2 of the 3 neighbors that are there, as well as the neighbor at 2 Birchlea Avenue. So we did have a conversation. I was made aware of their concerns. And on top of that, this application was deferred twice, and their letters were available on the Application Information Center. So we were well aware of the comments. And I always advise my client to consult with neighbors. I can't guarantee that they will do that, but I always advise them to do that. And I think it is better that the owner themselves go out to consult with the neighbors. So that was all done. In those conversations, the trees were brought up as a concern. We understand that, and I'll address that shortly. One of the neighbors who spoke today was making comments about keeping the house as is. So frankly, I don't think that is really a valid concern that warrants further discussion. And so in regards to a number of the comments made, I'll first address the trees. So I agree, trees are important. We did not provide an arborist report at this point, but Urban Forestry just provided standard recommended conditions of approval, and they have indicated no concerns or objections. We will have to deal with forestry if the committee chooses to approve this application through their permit process. And I'll note as well that we are providing quite a large rear yard. We're exceeding the minimum required rear yard setback. And if any plantings are required as compensation for any removals or injuries, I anticipate that we will have some room on the lot to accommodate some compensation. However, those details will be sorted out. I'm not an arborist, and we will sort out those details with Urban Forestry. Regarding the issue about this being a duplex that some members of the LBNA have raised, I will note that these are duplexes, and we actually obtained zoning notices that confirm same, and we discussed this with the zoning examiner. The only reason we submitted waivers is because we wanted to make further revisions, and frankly, considering the 2 deferrals and the time that we've spent on this file, the owner didn't want further delay, so he opted to go with waivers. But effectively, what the city did with adopting the multiplex amendment was they essentially eliminated the whole concept of a single detached dwelling with a secondary suite. It's effectively non-existent in the city because any dwelling with 2 units or greater can be considered a duplex, triplex, or fourplex. The only difference prior to the multiplex amendment was that a duplex, triplex, or fourplex could not be considered anything other than a new building, whereas a single detached could not be converted to a duplex, triplex, or fourplex. That was now eliminated with the multiplex amendment. So there is essentially, the concept of a single with a secondary suite really doesn't exist because no one is going to say their proposal is a single with a secondary suite when you can call it a duplex and be subject to the more permissive multiplex provisions. That's not a loophole. That was something that the city has enacted, that city council has permitted, and we are proposing duplexes, and they meet the definition of a duplex as per the bylaw. So the whole notion about this being subject to an FSI variance, I won't discuss in further detail other than to say that it's not a variance that's in front of the committee today. So I am running out of time. But I'll note as well that, frankly, I disagree with the comments from members of the LBNA. I do think that this is an appropriate severance. There are many lots within the neighborhood that are similar in frontage and area, and these lots will be in keeping with that existing character of the neighborhood. I'll note specifically that in terms of 7.62 meter lot frontages, 15% or 98 lots in the neighborhood are 7.62 meters or less. So by saying that a 25-foot lot does not fit in with the neighborhood is saying that 15% of the existing character of the neighborhood does not fit in with the neighborhood. So those are my comments, Mr. Chair. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from panel members? Well, seeing none, we'll take it into committee. So you guys have had your shot. Thank you. Do we not do some deliberation, or we got a question brewing in your mind?
We've heard a lot of views and so on. To me, if you try and simplify this, I don't believe it meets the character of the neighborhood. Period.
Okay.
In the discussion.
You're going to move a motion for refusal?
Unless anyone else.
Well, I mean, we can have some.
To do that.
I mean, it's been a long application. There's been a lot said. I don't mind if we take a few minutes to have some discussion before we move to a vote.
I agree, that's why I didn't propose a motion.
Okay.
My concern is sort of the common concern that I'm seeing with a lot of this lot splitting is that, you know, instead of doing two semis on a tight lot, you're trying to squeeze out two detached houses with side yard setbacks that are unacceptable between those two. But anyway, that's my comment on it.
Yeah, I have a comment. I would have liked to have seen an arborist report on this particular application, especially because the tree issue is a primary concern of the neighbors. I also agree with my chair that this property should have been a semi-detached dwelling. And those are my comments.
Okay, anyone else?
Bill, you look like you were going to chime in on that. No?
Okay, if we're done with comments and discussion, is anyone ready for a motion?
I'm prepared to propose a motion.
Can you speak into the mic? Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I'm prepared to propose a motion to refuse the application on the grounds it doesn't meet the 4 test.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder?
And the consent as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we can't do part and parcel, right? I mean, whether.
No, just Mr. Ross said the 4 tests, so I
Oh,
want to
okay.
make sure
Yeah, and the consent.
it's related to the consent as well.
Okay. So it's a refusal for both consent and variances.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, the application is refused. Okay, so that's.
Are we going back to 21?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get some notes down, sorry. If you can chase down Ida.
Ida, are you present?
I'm here.
And you've got an
I
answer?
am. Yes, I do.
Okay, stand by.
Okay, so what's that issue is what is going to go into the description?
The purpose of the application. So we can either state that it non-residential building or employment building, or we could state it's just a new 4-story building. We could
I don't
state
think.
Well, it's your application, so you have to tell us.
non-residential building.
Thank you.
Non-residential building.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's probably the safest way.
yeah, just to be consistent with planning.
Okay, so we have an application to construct a new non-residential building with 4 variances being requested and a condition of approval from planning. Does anyone have any other comments, or are we ready for a motion?
Go ahead.
You go ahead.
Go ahead.
If no one has any comments or questions, I'm prepared to make a motion.
So I do have a comment or a question.
Okay.
If we change the purpose to non-residential building, are the bylaw provisions cited that require variances still accurate and applicable?
Through you, Mr. Chair? Yes, they are.
That was the whole issue.
Yes.
They're still applicable.
Yeah, and if the
Correct.
agent's comfortable
yes.
with that, then
And are we
Member
all,
Taylor?
are we all comfortable with changing the purpose from the perspective of the public notice?
Do we need a recirculation? Is that what you're getting at?
Well, I'm just wondering, the public realistically is expecting a new industrial building, and we're contemplating approving a new non-residential building. I'm just not making a judgment, just asking a question.
No,
Are we all comfortable with that?
the purpose doesn't affect the variances, and the notice actually went out by stating to construct a new
mixed use.
mixed-use building. We corrected it for the agenda, So the public hearing notice said mixed-use building. And the reason why planning wanted that addressed is because the way mixed use is defined, it implies that there's residential involved. In this case, there is no residential
But does it
involved.
always imply that there is residential in a mixed-use building, or could it be industrial and office?
No, because that under the underlining zoning is employment, so they would never refer to mixed use and employment. You'll either get industrial or you'll get non-residential.
Okay,
It's cleaner. that way.
Non-residential.
you go ahead and make the motion. No, I didn't, I started and then I was interrupted, so no, I'm happy to let Bill make that
Okay.
motion.
Fair enough. Okay, so with that, I'd like to move a motion to approve, as I believe this application meets the 4 tests, subject to the planning conditions, and I guess we're
The new
noting it as
designation?
revised.
The new designation?
Well, the new
With the revised purpose.
purpose going
Yes.
from to construct new mixed-use building, now industrial, now non-residential.
No revised purpose. I second that motion. I second that motion.
Okay, Laura, all in favor? Okay, approved unanimously, thank you.
Just one thing to add, great design, by the way, I like it.
Yeah, I like the look of that building.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
looks great.
Nice building.
And I used to visit there because they had a storage unit there on that same street, so
Do I get to make the last motion?
it's yours.
It is now 2:37, and I believe we are adjourned. Thank you, staff.
Okay, thank you.